Hello, and welcome to this week's video from Adolescent Medicine Consulting. For those of you who have been following along, you know that we're in our series of what to do when we get different answers on a psychosocial screening, also known as the HEADS assessment, SHADES assessment. If you don't know what I'm talking about and you're new here, welcome. You might want to go back a few videos and find out a little bit more about the psychosocial assessment and some of what we do as adolescent medicine specialists. For those of you who are tuning in regularly, thank you so much for tuning in regularly, and we are going to jump right in talking about 5 questions that you can ask about home and what you can do when you get a concerning response. As a reminder, these videos are for informational and educational purposes only. They are not intended to be a substitute for your own clinical judgment, nor should they be considered a medical consult. If you do need a medical consult or have more specific questions, by all means, reach out to us directly at www.adolescentmedicineconsulting.com or Dr. Beharry at adolescentmedicineconsulting.com with more questions. One of the key things we talk about in adolescent medicine, and really in asking people, patients, clients questions at all, is asking open-ended questions. So those are questions that don't have a straight yes or no answer. One of the questions I like to ask is, who do you live with? People kind of expect you to ask this question. And I have found over time that I sometimes get different answers when I ask the patient versus the parent. So it helps us verify the information that was provided on the intake form. People are busy. Sometimes they forget, like there's a whole sibling or grandma, grandpa, new boyfriend for mom or whatever who might be in the picture. And asking the adolescent that question when you're one-on-one helps you verify that information. It also gives you an idea of the level of support that the patient has. Who is part of their village, part of their tribe at home? Can also help with identifying potential psychosocial risks. For example, if they are living with many people at the same time, it could be that they're doubled up, like 2 families living together, to save costs on the costs of living, groceries, rent, all of those things. And it might be a good time to plug them in with some local resources. Again, if you want to know more about those resources, click into the previous video on how to help those who are homeless or unstably housed. But briefly, that would include your social workers, food banks, all of those resources, WIC, and some of the social supports that we have. You might also get a clue that the patient is moving around a lot and therefore unstably housed. We get concerned when people have really, especially with kids, 2 or 3 moves in a year. That is a lot. So you want to find out what's going on with that situation. Are they moving because of safety issues? Is there a domestic violence issue? Is it a money issue? Is there something that's going on with a parent or guardian that is making them unstable and unable to provide for the basic needs of the child consistently? Is there unsafe housing? Is it a situation where they had to move because there's like a roach infestation or mold or fire or gun safety issues, maybe a violent neighborhood? Those are all things that are important for us to know because it lets us know, 1, the level of risk that the patient has, and 2, gives us an opportunity to link that young person and their family to some additional services. Some clinics that I've worked at and facilities that I've worked at have medical legal partnerships where there is a lawyer or paralegal that can be part of the clinic and can help link the family to resources. Sometimes you can help them by linking them to community resources, whether that's through the city or through legal aid, so that they can get some free legal assistance to help fight their landlord and get proper safe housing and all of the things that we need for a young person to thrive. We can also identify a potential abuse situation. I have certainly had some patients where, as we talk one-on-one, they share that, oh yeah, there's so-and-so who's the new partner for their parent or guardian, and that person is either touching them inappropriately, beating them, yelling at them, or just mistreating them in some way, shape, or form. So we want to know who all the people are who are living with them and kind of why they're there. Like I said, it's to assess risks and also to identify strengths and supports for the young person. Another open-ended question that I like to ask is, what chores do you have? A lot of times I get the answer, no chores. And for many kids, being a student, doing their homework, being part of the family is what their responsibility is. At certain ages, that is developmentally appropriate or maybe developmentally appropriate. However, as the person is getting older and progressing to moving out on their own, we do want to make sure that they are learning some of the basic tasks of daily living, doing the dishes, emptying the dishwasher, helping out to maintain their own safe space so that they can keep that going when they're out and about in the world on their own. I also remember that there was one patient, the grandma actually came to a visit once and shared that, one of the kiddos' chores was to empty the dishwasher. And if there was something that needed extra cleaning, to put it in the sink. Well, she's listening as she's babysitting and she hears that he's pretty much putting everything in the sink. Come to find out that mom was not doing so well mentally, and even though the dishes were supposed to have been washed and cleaned and, part of her usual routine, that wasn't being done. And that was one of the clues for us that mom needed a little bit extra help and support to complete the tasks of daily living, and that the family needed some extra help and support. So for that family, because we were in a system where we could help link the mom to her own care, that was part of what we did. And certainly the grandmother was a key support for the patient that I was seeing, as well as for her daughter. We also want to make sure that kids are doing developmentally appropriate tasks. I have certainly also been in a situation where we've had a young child, like 7 or 8, who is doing a lot, pretty much all of the parental tasks for a younger sibling. Part of that could be because the family doesn't have local community support, so linking them in with whatever systems might be in place for young parents and young moms. Some of y'all know for a while I helped lead a teen taught clinic, and we were able to link people with community supports, mentors, folks like that, to help that young parent do all the things that are needed to take care of the younger children. So thinking about this child who was basically being the parent to her younger sibling, some of the things that we did was pull in other family members, pull in some social supports from different community groups like church, and also make sure that that kiddo has her childhood respected and is being given some additional resources to help with school and all the things that she needs to do, making sure that, we're providing that village that it takes to raise the child. The next is one of my favorite questions. What happens when you get in trouble? A lot of times I get the answer, nothing, I don't get in trouble. That may or may not be true. I sometimes probe a little bit more depending on what I know about the kid and the family dynamic to find out if it really is true that they never get in trouble, because they're absolutely perfect and never do anything wrong. And to be honest, perfectionism is great to a limit. We know that most people aren't perfect all the time, and that some people with perfectionism have significant anxiety and other problems in life. So we want to look out for that if they're never getting in trouble. They could also be never getting in trouble because the parent has checked out and they're not really paying attention, and there is some neglect in that they're not doing their parent job of watching what's going on with the kiddo at the time. We also have an opportunity to assess the discipline style and family dynamics, as with the other questions. Are the parents really authoritative, giving their thoughts and opinions and letting the child grow and have some mistakes? Are they authoritarian, my way or the highway? It has to be exactly like this. The clothes have to be lined up in order of their color or size or whatever. And does the parent have their own health and mental health issues? Or are they neglectful or free range parents and just letting that kiddo do whatever they want and not really paying attention to what might be going on and some potential safety issues? We also want to assess for abuse. If a kiddo tells me that they get in trouble and are sent to bed without their supper because they, slammed the door when they came home after a really rough day at school, that seems a bit out of proportion to what most people would do in that situation. Instead of correcting the kid and saying, hey, what's up with you? Why'd you slam the door? Sending them to bed without dinner can set that kiddo up for eating issues and a whole host of problems, but also doesn't allow them to have a safe space to discuss their feelings. We certainly have also had the case where kids are getting physically beaten for minor infractions. We'll talk about physical discipline probably down the road at another time, but by and large, there are other ways to deal with most problems for young people. So we want to make sure that the discipline fits the problem and that it's not out of proportion or not really a punishment for the kiddo. So this is technically a closed-ended question. Have you ever thought about running away? A lot of times I do ask this just as a checking in with a kid, or if they're particularly grumpy and not really wanting to talk, I would ask this yes or no question. If I wanted to ask this as an open-ended question, I might say, if you were to run away from home, where would you go? And certainly if someone answers the have you ever thought about running away question as a yes, I have thought about running away, I do want to know where they would go and who is their safe person, their place that they would run to in a crisis. Most kiddos tell me no, that they haven't thought about running away, or yeah, but they change their mind because like things are expensive and they really like their puppy or whatever it is at home that's keeping them there. When that happens, I do want to make sure that I'm providing some anticipatory guidance and letting them know about the Runaway hotlines, the National SafePlace that we talked about, the 1-800-RUNAWAY, so that if they are in a crisis, they know who to reach out to and how to get some help and not hopefully end up in an even more dangerous situation. I also like asking about where they would run away to because it lets me know where to look for them if I do ever hear from the patient or family that the kid has run away and who their other supports are. So remembering that it's an opportunity to really get to a little picture of the kiddo's world and an opportunity to share some of those resources that we talked about in the previous video. This is also technically a closed-ended question. Do you feel safe at home? It's a yes or no question. And I know one of my colleagues shared that, she had been asked that question as a child and was not in a safe situation. So put that little asterisk there to remind us that safe means different things to different people. If I were to change this question around, we can substitute that word safe. Do you feel loved at home? Do you feel supported at home? Or we can ask it differently to say, where do you feel the safest? Where do you feel the most supported and loved? So there's some alternate ways of asking those questions depending on, your sense of what's going on with the young person and your time and resources. You can ask it however you feel most comfortable. It's part of what I love about adolescent medicine. It really uses me as a whole person and the human part of me to figure out what's going on with the kiddo in that moment. Obviously, if a kid feels unsafe at home, we want to figure out why. Are they perceiving things as unsafe, but they really are safe? And it's more of an anxiety issue, or are they really in a situation where we have to call local child protective services and or have the kid admitted in order to maintain their health and safety? So if they were to say, no, I actually don't feel safe at home, following it up with like, oh, well, can you tell me a little bit more about that? What makes you feel unsafe at home? And if they aren't able to tell or can't really share anything in that moment, just assessing for the big safety issues of physical, emotional, or sexual abuse. And a lot of times when we are asking these questions, kiddos won't give you the answer at the first visit, but they might tell you later on and after they've sussed you out as a person who they can trust. You also want to assess for safety in the neighborhood. A lot of times I've gotten, no, I don't feel safe at home because I live in a neighborhood that has a lot of gang violence and there's gunshots at night and I can't go out at night, and or the elevator shaft is unsafe, or there's this dude who keeps talking to me. All of these things, you really want to make that space for the young person to share and help link them to different resources. It's a bit more challenging when it's neighborhood violence and issues like that, but for a lot of young people, if we can link them to some after school programs or different community supports, that can help them have a safe place to explore what they should be exploring developmentally at the teen-tween phase without as much risk of violence from their neighborhood. I know certainly for a lot of young people, community resources like the Boys and Girls Club, the local community centers, YMCA, YWCA, all of these things can be very helpful and supportive, or some after school programs like the community and schools programs that we talked about in the last video. So this ties into some of what we talked about several videos ago in the stress management series as well, the 7 C's for having connection to community and really feeling supported. This is part of what I love about adolescent medicine, and I hope this is helpful for you as well. Thank you for tuning in to this video on 5 questions that you can ask about home and what to do if you get a concerning response. For more information on adolescent health issues and anything that comes up in your practice, feel free to reach out to us at www.adolescentmedicineconsulting.com or shoot me an email at drbeharry@adolescentmedicineconsulting.com. That's dr.beharry@adolescentmedicineconsulting.com. If you would like some CME credit for this video, you can click on the link that's in the associated text with this video and get some reflection credits from CMFI. We do have a small $5 admin fee with that, and I'm happy to tell you more about CMFI. Really hope that this has been helpful for you and that you will keep tuning in for some more videos and resources from adolescentmedicineconsulting.com, where we help you help teens. Thank you.